There are many techniques to style deadwood, but there's not so many techniques that show you how to age deadwood. In this video I'm going to clean up this bark, I'm going to remove it, I'm going to style the deadwood, and then I'm going to try and age it. And I'm not going to age it with fire, I'm going to age it with ice. Right now I'm just going to take my tools. I've got a very sharp small hook, I've got a blunt metal tool, I've got a scraper, I've got brushes, pliers. All of these are going to be used. Let's get started and clean this up. Let's see how hard this wood still is. It has aged for a long time. Yeah, it is quite soft. Let me just open it up first. Taking care not to dive too deep because I don't want ugly straight scratches into the bark. I'm not really convinced I need this much wood, but I'm just going to gently break off some bits and bobs and see how small I can make this. Key is to try and break it with the natural grain of the wood. That will look most natural on the long run. The wood is so nice and soft that I can just gently, by hand, break out bits and pieces. This creates of course a much more natural looking deadwood than carving it away. Carving tools just make ugly scars most of the time. And of course all the cut ends I want to be removed. Nothing should look like it was man-made, but that is tricky. Here the wood is soft and I can probably better use the carving tool to just brush it out. So that's not really carving, it's really brushing away softer wood. And using the steel brush, I brush gently in the line of the wood fibers to create a little bit more texture. And of course removing all the small fibers that are left. Don't overdo it. And also if you have natural dead sections like this, that's where I don't brush at all, because I don't want to damage that. Natural structures are always the most beautiful. So stumps like these I really dislike. That is just where a branch has been cut off. It looks unnatural, but it's very difficult to create that into a natural looking stump. So I'm really just take pliers and gently break out bits and pieces. I have a broken pair of pliers. The beak is partially broken out and that really aids. I can just push one side in and rotate and then it breaks. And as said, these natural breaking points are typically what makes it look okay. But it's not easy. And then I go in with my tiny little, oh what is it? Steel. It's not even a knife because it's fairly blunt. It was made for deadwood work. And I try to squeeze off the bark. This is of course already dead, so it comes off quite easily. Here I'm edging onto living tissue. Here also try to make these edges not so homogeneous. And then I go in, push the tip in, lift, breaking out, lift. And now I think this edge looks really like a naturally decaying stump. Remove a few little bits of bark here in the back. And now it can just be left to decay naturally. Or I can apply the technique that really makes this look older by years. Over the last couple of days it's been very wet. This is completely soaked with water. Today I've sprayed it 4 or 5 times. Well, you can see the water drops are still hanging from the leaves. And now I'm going to freeze them. If you look now at the deadwood, it is still fairly smooth. You can see some of the lines, but what I'm hoping for is to get crackling. And by freezing this deadwood, I hope that once it thaws and freezes and thaws and freezes, the wood will start to crack. Now, I bought myself an ice spray. Now, of course, make sure that you protect the foliage from the cold spray and direct it away. But let's see what happens if I apply this. You see this turns into ice immediately. And a second time. Completely frozen. Round 3. To be honest, I don't really see an effect. The idea is, of course, that the water crystallizes, expands, causes cracks in the wood, and that way the deadwood ages. Right, I've soaked the whole thing again. I mean, it looks cool as it freezes. No pun intended, actually. But I don't see any real effects on the structure of the wood. Some fibers might be coming up a little bit. Maybe that's the first start. Right, so this has now been frozen about 10 times. And to be honest, I don't really see a lot of difference in the structure. And I'll keep doing this over fall, and then maybe in a month or two we can have a look at this and see whether the deadwood actually looks more aged. And maybe if I look at the video material, I will notice that there's more cracks in there. But yeah, for now. Does this look different to you? Maybe a little bit here in the top area. And of course I've been doing the same here at the bottom, right? I've just been switching back and forth between which parts I'm blasting. Always be careful that the foliage doesn't get a burn, but also that the living tissue doesn't get burned. Because at this point, freezing the living tissue will kill parts of it. Does look cool as it freezes. This is basically the water crystallizing, and this should cause the cracks in the deadwood. And actually, thinking of it, this work might of course cause very small fractures in the wood that we don't really see, but create a point of attack for fungal infections, and therefore maybe the wood will decay more quickly by doing this. Yeah, wishful thinking. Now, to be honest, we're now in January. I don't see any cracking of the deadwood. So freezing it, to me, doesn't really look like a beneficial technique. Probably over time, as it is outside, yes, this does decay more, but I don't think that freezing the deadwood gives you an instant cracking of the wood. So yeah, for me, experiment failed. Sorry. This was Jelle. Not aging deadwood using icing. See you next time. This was Growing Bonsai.